Business is FN hard.
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 On today's episode, we have Ericka Young, founder of Young's Moving Service.
I was 17 whenever I started Young's Moving Service. Kind of started out of desperation. Now we have almost 30 employees, 7 trucks, and it's been really great for us. It's kind of been a vessel to pour into others.
And Sandy Wright, founder of the Yuma Group and a leadership coach and strategist.
And I think as entrepreneurs, the stress level can be so high, whether it's employees, budget, or money flow, or there's an accident with the truck, or someone doesn't show and you're on a deadline. That stress just goes, wow. And so our ability to feel it in our body and say, okay, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to, take 5 minutes, chill out, and then be able to think more clearly.
Get ready to get real, because business is FN hard.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Business is Effing Hard, the podcast that rips the curtain off the grind of building something real from the ground up here. I'm your host, Steve Hintz, and today's episode is going to be a good one. We've got Ericka Young, founder of Young's Moving Service, and she's got a thriving logistics and moving company, and Sandy Wright, my mom, actually. So this is going to be a lot of fun. She's the founder of Yuma Group, a leadership coach and strategist, and she helps individuals and organizations navigate growth, change, and everything in between. So, it's great. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
It's great to have you guys. So I'm super excited about today. So I guess we'll just jump right into it. I want to hear a little bit about just your companies and kind of tell me a little bit about your origin story. And let's just hear a little bit about what you got going on.
Go for it, Ericka.
You go first, Miss Sandy. Okay. Okay. I'll jump right in. So I was 17 whenever I started Young's Moving Service. I found myself a teen mom in every sense of the word, but through the beauty of adoption. So kind of started out of desperation, and now we have almost 30 employees, 7 trucks, and it's been really great for us. It's kind of been a vessel to pour into others. So now I'm a mother of 6. I have a super awesome, supportive husband who's the real badass. And that's where we're at.
That's awesome. That's really cool. All right, see what Mom? Yeah, Sandy.
Well, I just wanted to say to Ericka, that's a great story, and I know there are many stories behind that. So I'm looking forward to hearing more. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I decided a long time ago I don't make a good employee. I'm a little bit too independent. But I've been working on my own for a long time. I started a marketing firm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and had a lot of corporate and other clients, and began to see the need for people trying to change, grow, do from startups. So I had startups to full range corporations. And then I moved to Arkansas. Excuse me. I moved to Arkansas, and I was a consultant I've been here a long time, but a consultant for many years with nonprofits and companies. And because I'm a serial entrepreneur, I have a special affinity for those of us who are insane enough to take an idea and nurture it and grow it. And so about 15 years ago, after being a consultant, where when you walk into the room, people expect you to have all kinds of things in your quiver and hand out answers, right? Mm-hmm. And I realized the smartest people in the room is not the consultant, it's the people in the room. And so I switched to coaching about 15 years ago. And the purpose being that, we have an innate intelligence and we know what our experiences are. And a coach helps us pull that out, stretch it a little bit, give it back to you. So there's ownership about what steps need to be taken for growth, survival, and I mean survival, and thriving.
Okay.
That's where I am today.
Wow. Yeah,
that's awesome.
These journeys, entrepreneurship obviously is a journey, and you guys having, these origin stories are really important for people. A lot of people going through business, a lot of people just thinking about starting, and everybody's kind of got their own unique path through the whole thing. So the podcast is obviously called Business is Effing Hard, and we all know that there's a lot of struggles to it. Part of the part of the reason why we're having this conversation is because oftentimes we're highlighted when we're doing some amazing thing and everything is going perfect and people can just fawn and look at you and celebrate your super successes. But as we know, everybody goes through tough times and kind of has difficulties. And even if you're successful, we don't often talk about the struggle, which is, the more struggles, obviously the learning places and the places where everybody can grow from. And in order to get successful, you have to hit those stumbling blocks and you have to learn from all those things to get successful. So the next obvious question here that we all want to know about is kind of what's kicking your butt right now? What's really tough about the business that you're in, and what kind of struggles do you see kind of on a day-to-day, or what's something unique that you're going through now?
Yeah. I just want to say on the point of, seeing all the successes, cheering everybody on, that's really awesome. But I think we do get to this day-to-day where you don't think everybody's in their 30s, and it sounds like dating. Like it's horrible. You can try all these different avenues and they're all a complete bust. And like they all want commitment. They all want a commitment, but have commitment issues. They're, they say they're going to be there, but they can't show up for the first interview. And so truly that is our biggest struggle right now. And then let alone finding people with a driver's license. I mean, wow. We are a second chance employer, and we do have a great launching program we're throwing out there to create a career path for these guys. So I feel like we're getting creative with the ways, but we are growing at a space that we just need more. And that's kind of where we're at. That is our truest struggle right now, is just employees.
I feel like that's a common, you hear that a lot, especially after COVID. I feel like a lot of people have been talking about how hard it is to retain people and stuff. Did you see a shift there, or is there something what do you think that is? Why do you think we're having so much hard time for it?
I absolutely saw a shift. So I'm on my 12th year of business now. And this last year has been the absolute hardest for employees. Now, not employee retention. I have over 11 employees that have been with me over 2 years. So which is pretty uncommon in the moving industry. So it's not a retention issue. It's just getting them in the door issue. And I think after COVID and, all the checks went out and money seemed to just be like appearing in people's hands. I think there's a different sense of entitlement instead of, working your way up. It's what can I get as soon as I walk in the door, but I'm going to look at you while I'm on my phone, wow. There has absolutely been a shift since COVID on that, I would say.
Interesting.
I also think that there's been such a dearth of employees across the board that people are offering hiring incentives, $500 if you sign up, $500 if you bring a friend. So it's almost like bribing people to take a job. And I think also the instability that we're currently experiencing with things shifting day by day. What I'm finding when I coach people is that it's really impossible for people to plan. So they're looking for something immediate, because planning is a futile effort at the moment. Will I have a job tomorrow? Will I do some coaching with nonprofits, and their funding's being cut left and right. So they're losing employees, and they're having problem retaining it. So I think it's sort of across the board right now. And as an entrepreneur, trying to find employees that are going to stay, because, you spend all this money and time training and, bringing them in and having them get to learn your culture, and then leave. And so it's not just, I think what I'm hearing you say, it's not just the money, it's the training time. It's the people that they're going to show up when they do. All of those things then become an issue. Are you finding that as well, Ericka?
Really, it's just getting them. It's getting them in the door. And I don't know, really the unemployment laws, like what's going on there. But we are seeing is we can get 50 phone calls, and out of those 50 phone calls, 5 of them might show up to that first interview. It's really getting them in the door. I feel like once they go through our onboarding, like I said, we don't have a problem with keeping them. It's just getting them to commit to Or when they do commit to come to that interview, show up.
Wow. So employees, yeah, I guess that's, and your company is, I mean, with movers, you have a certain amount of experience you want people to have, I imagine, but you're also training them. You want people just in the door that are going to, the bar is not like you need a bachelor's degree or a graduate degree or something like that. So you get in folks in who want to be able to work hard and kind of can come right in and get to work. Well, and that's a really fascinating kind of aspect, I guess, of a moving company. You need bodies in the door. You need to move stuff. You need to haul stuff, and people need to be able to put in the work. But it's not. There's probably a lot of competition. A lot of other companies that are needing movers and stuff like that. So that I can see how that's a tough place to get people in and get them working. Well, Mom, let's talk about you here. So what's kicking your butt right now?
Well, I think, in my business, it requires companies to want to invest in employees and want to invest in employees and want to build up their leadership skills and their, and a lot of companies now are sort of moving away from creating work-life balance for their employees. And so coaching becomes an option for them. And I think also with other things going on, not to get political, but tariffs and getting, materials and all those kinds of things right now, that uncertainty allocates money to those things versus building up their employees a lot of times. I'm a growth space and a Better Up and milestone leadership coach. And we've been having conversations about the fact that companies are shifting where they put their budgets and it's affecting that. Now, companies like, that I've been coaching with, Hewlett Packard, Mars Wrigley, a few others, are still investing in individuals for a similar reason that you mentioned, Ericka, because you want to hold on to them. You want them to grow in their skills and their ability to be leaders. And so once those change and thriving things come up, the other thing I'm finding is that a lot of people in management positions their self-confidence has sort of slipped. And so companies are also investing in helping people, create opportunities for them to grow and feel good about it. So, how you celebrate the wins and how you deal with things that aren't working become more important so that people feel like they're being held up, even when they're not doing their best, that you can help them learn how to do be better at what they're doing.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Sandy. I think a lot of that boils down to just like communication with your teams, though, and like how present you are and, just in their day-to-day lives. Something we do pride ourselves on as a company is just like our family-like culture and just taking a moment to stop and be like, man, what's going on in your life? What's one highlight that happened at your kid's game? Or I think creates a pretty unique culture. Yeah. So you have a different perspective because you're from a coaching side, which is super unique and valuable for us business owners.
Well, and it's interesting because as you're talking about growth, when my marketing firm, started, and I used to hire my kids to do things with projects, which was interesting. We had this agreement that when we're at supper table, I'm mom and we're in business, I'm not mom. So, you start to divide up your psyches. But I think when I started, it was in an attic space in our house. And then it grew. So then there was a space downtown and then there was a renovation. And pretty soon I had 17 employees and a business advisor who would tell me not to do something. And then I would do it and then we'd make it work. But, so when you look at that kind of growth pattern, and it got to the point where, and I'd be really curious to see with, where your business has come, if this is the case. It got to the point that I went into it for the creativity and the interaction with the companies or the startups, and I wound up managing people. And so I really wasn't doing that, that which I started the company for. Now I was managing a company. And somehow that, it got old. It wasn't as exciting. It wasn't as exciting as the startup phase. That makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So of the startup phase, man, for me, I feel like the startup phase was such a grind. I feel like I got a little bit of freedom now.
Right.
And so, and then, how do you connect with small businesses who are just starting out that, might not have the budget for a coach? How are you finding that you're getting into that niche market whenever they're not living paycheck to paycheck, but investing everything they make into like how are you connecting with them?
That's a tough one when you want to talk of what's kicking your butt. I think it's getting new clients that are at that stage. I do some pro bono work, and when I want it done, whatever, to a mindset that shares and delegates and all of that. And that's sometimes wrenching for entrepreneurs, that I find when you get to that phase where you have to, where you want to grow, but it requires you to shift versus, other things, and build in new systems that may not be exactly, as you thought about it.
That's really interesting. You say that. If you would have asked me 6 months ago what was kicking my butt, I would have said that exact thing, Sandy. I would have said my problem would have been letting go of certain things, but I was working 60 hours a week, and my family, like I said, I got 6 kids, was like, Mom, we never see you unless we're at the office.
Right.
And so I had to really make a change, and I went through some deep counseling and a great business coach. And I hired my first estimator, which is the face of the company, and hired him. He went through vigorous interviews, and he's been with me 60 days now, totally killing it, totally crushing it. And I'm like, wow, I got my life back. And what else can I delegate? So that you're so spot on with whenever you do shift that mindset, it does allow you as the business owner to work more on the business versus in it. And then it becomes, instead of how can I afford this person, how can I not afford this person?
Yeah.
That's
And
a
I think you
powerful-
bring up an excellent point when it's about work-life balance. I mean, Steve can attest to the fact that there were years when I was coming home at 8 o'clock at night and leaving at 7 in the morning. And, I'd come into all harried at soccer games and whatever else. And, and then leaving the business behind. In my imagination, finally, when I woke up, was I imagined this sort of tunnel between my car and the house. And as I would get into it, I would leave work here and have a glass of wine there. And by the time I got up to the front door, I was able to kind of to switch, but it took me a long time. And my kids saying just what your kids said, we don't see you anymore. Where are you? That it took a long time for that to kind of hit me up the side of the head and say, okay, you really need to change something. And I had my business in Milwaukee in an era where women didn't own marketing firms. And so you want to talk about get your butt kicked constantly. And so there became like I don't know what I call it, entrepreneurial veneer or armor around, this is my baby. And I've thought about it and I've built it and I've connected it, and it's my reputation and my baby. And when you get to be awakened, you realize, oh, that was a great story. Now, doesn't serve me well.
Yeah, I love that, Sandy. We need to go have coffee sometime.
I'm up for it. Give me a call.
Oh, good.
Yes, I love that. My husband, he owns a remodel company, and he does rental properties and stuff. And so he's kind of down that avenue, but it also, like, the support of your family. You mentioned you have kids during business, and it really does take your kids being on board too, to realize, like, sometimes they got to help pull the weight, whether they're stuffing flyers and doors or helping you door knock to sell, or just that family support, I feel like, is crucial in small business.
Oh, I remember stuffing envelopes a lot when we were kids, doing stuff like that, running around, dropping stuff off. And and throwing newspapers in bars and, sending out letters with you, putting stamps on, licking stamps and all that kind of good stuff. So you're right. I think that's a really team building thing when you have a business in the family and it's a small business, growing business.
Well, we used to, their dad and I started Milwaukee Irish Fest, which now has been going 30 years. And they would dress up as Patty McFest. I mean, they would just run rampant for 3 days. I didn't know where they were. And selling root beer and selling popcorn and, doing all kinds of things. So their experience, all three of the kids are entrepreneurs. It's a family disease that we don't want to be cured of. So,
I love that so much.
Yeah, it's and so we can talk about those things and find ways to support each other because, I remember someone saying to me, "Why don't you just get a job when times were lean?" And I said, "I have a job." So,
okay, I have a question for both of you. What is something that you would never do again if you were doing business? Like a decision you may have made, or something that you would never go. You would like something early on, maybe that you tried that you would say like, okay, I wouldn't do that again. That was something that I probably, a route I wouldn't go down. Is there anything that you can think of?
I mean, I can think of something. So I think I was like 18, 19, pregnant, looked like a whale. And I was driving cross country to do these moves, and I couldn't find guys with a driver's license again, but then I didn't know a driver's license was required for a job. And so I'm like, I'll drive the truck, and I'm 9 months pregnant, getting ready to pop, and I'm in Florida, and construction worker hits the truck, and we're broke down the whole 9 yards. And I think whenever you're like starting out, you will do whatever it takes. And so I would go down to MLK on Fayetteville and hold a sign that I was hiring. And I just needed somebody to drive a truck. And so I never found anybody that they would try and throw $1 at me. And I never found anybody at that point doing that. And so that is something that you asked that I would never do again.
The question, Mom, was what is something that you did back then that you would never do again, like a business move or decision or something that's looking back on like, I'll never do that again. That was something I wouldn't want to do. I did.
Wow. I have to think of all the businesses I've been involved with to see.
One business move you wouldn't repeat.
Well, I know this sounds silly, but I hired someone who had 8 pet snakes, and she was very unusual. And she was a receptionist and came into work one day and said one of her snakes was sick, and she never came back.
Guys,
so be careful who you hire, I guess.
Or the people that have 8 snakes.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, don't hire people with that many snakes.
Yeah,
maybe 4, but not 8. Good Lord, that's too many.
We never had
a hiring question. Next is going to go on the.
Go ahead.
I was going to say we should add to the application. How many snakes do you have?
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Or not have a bring your pet to work thing. Don't do that.
There you go. All right, here's another question I have for you guys. What is a truth that you wish somebody would have told you before you started any of your businesses or got going? Is there anything you wish, like a piece of advice you wish you would have gotten? Because there's a lot of people out here that are thinking about starting businesses or not really knowing what they're jumping into, but naively kind of stepping into the whole process. So what's something that you think maybe, that would have been nice to know before I got going?
I would just say go ahead.
No, you go. Go ahead.
What I was just going to say that I wish somebody would have told me is like your story and your journey doesn't have to look like anybody else's. I think especially as women, I'm the only woman-owned moving company in the state of Arkansas. So like Miss Sandy said, being a woman in a man's industry, I needed to toughen my skin a little bit, but more importantly, I needed to learn that my journey truly is different than any other moving company, and their journey is different than mine. And I don't need to compare how many trucks I have versus how many trucks they, just to really be present in that journey, although it's a grind, just be present and don't try and make your journey look like anybody else's, because that's boring anyways. If God wanted us all perfect, then we would be it'd be a boring world. So
Right.
that's what I'd say.
Lunch is in our future for sure.
Yeah.
That's
You
great.
know, I mean, being, the only women-owned business back in the day, and even sometimes now, there is a sense of underestimation. And I think, we sometimes feel like we have to prove ourselves even more. And I agree with you 100%. We just need to be ourselves, be authentic, go with our gut, be curious, and we can go up against anyone, anything, anytime.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is what's going to make us happy, what's going to make us feel successful. Forget everybody else.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, guys, too, because I did a lot of freelance writing, and I interviewed this rapper, 50 Cent. You heard of 50 Cent before. And when I did the interview, one thing he said to me really stood out, and it was I learned early on that if I was trying to be like anybody else, I'd always be number two, and I'd always be trying to be something, and I'd always be I could never be them. So when I really realized to embrace my unique journey and my whole, all the things that he had been through in his life and all the relationships and all the unique stuff that made him who he was always going to be number one. And so that really resonated with me. But it sounds just kind of like what you guys are talking about as well. So.
Yep.
That's really good. I like that. And I'll always be number two. I like that, Steve. And I love me some 50 Cent back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Come on, now I can hear it in my head right now.
Here's a weird example. I had to do a video, which I hate. Obviously, I'm not real fond of doing videos at this point, but I had to do a video to introduce myself to an organization that allowed people to choose their own coach. And so I, looked at some, and they were in an office, or I was wearing shorts and a sleeveless shirt, and went and sat on a rock in a park and did my video there. And then I sent it in, and afterwards I thought, oh God, that was really not a good move. And 5 out of the 20 people chose me for that reason.
Oh, get out.
No, seriously.
That's awesome.
That's
it was relatable.
Absolutely.
So that's why I think it's being, as you said, Ericka, and as 50 Cent said, you gotta be yourself and be okay with it,
Yeah. And I think the thing in between, like I had a coach one time, she was like the itty bitty shitty committee right in between your eyes. Teresa Thompson, she was amazing, but she we self-doubt ourselves so much. But if we would just listen to our instinct, or listen to, the people that pour into us, we'd probably save ourselves a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Being able to take advice. Well, that drives me to another question. Is there a time in business that's just really humbled you? Like something that happened that you were just like, okay, now I thought I knew I was going forward, and I'm really it just got humbled. Is there like a moment that was like, a low point, or a point where you had to make a decision whether you, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs that sometimes they think, maybe I just need to go have a job, or I'm looking into even though I got my company, this may or may not work. I don't know. Talk a little bit about maybe a low point or a moment that maybe humbled you a lot that people may be able to relate to, if you don't mind.
You want to go, Sandy?
Yeah. Well, I took a contract job for 1 year, and then a number of years later, I took a contract job for 2 years, and it was a startup organization. It was a nonprofit, but it was funded by companies. And I was humbled I got chosen out of the raft of people they were interviewing, but what I think the most humbling thing was, how do I say? The most humbling thing was having someone get into something else that I hadn't done before, and finding myself succeeding, but not in a way that kind of made me feel really puffed up. But it was sort of like, wow, wow, I could really do this, and I felt humble about it because I thought this is something I've never done before with a long career, and I made it through, and there were some tough times in it, particularly working with certain people, but, just the fact that you can stand tall and get through things that knock you down. And then you look yourself in the mirror and go, okay, I'm okay. I'm okay. That's, to me, that's humbling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anything there?
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Sandy. What sticks to my mind, and it's something I got to say, I've been on quite a few podcasts and stuff, and I've never shared this. So, but
Hey, we got the
really,
scoop.
yeah, you're like digging into our souls a little bit with these questions, Steve. So great job.
Oh, thank you.
But really, what sticks to my mind is, as I mentioned, I was 17 when I started this company, and I was adopting a kid at that time, and he was a baby. And in the state of Arkansas, to adopt as a minor, I had to get married. And unfortunately, I married somebody that became an addict, and abusive, and so divorce came quickly. But it was just through that journey, like I'll never forget in that courtroom. He was like, she can have her business, and the judge said, well, you haven't, done anything with it. And she's been showing face, and you've drained every account she has. So if this business succeeds past 6 months, I'd be surprised because she has no money. And then she looked at me and said, but that should fuel you. And it did. So I just remember, like, you can't get blood out of a turnip, and just struggling my way through, I couldn't even, he had drained my account, so I couldn't even have a bank account. You're doing everything cash those first 6 months, just trying to figure out how to save face at this point. And man, that was a humbling experience. My husband, God love him, he had to sign for my first bank account after that experience.
That's humbling too.
But yeah, it was just, going through that as a single mom, but nobody in the public knowing anything of what's going on, because again, the highlight reels. And I think through that, I just learned, like, truly you can do what you want to do, and you can really start over from the ground up. And after that, it was just like everything started falling into place. After that weight was lifted off my shoulders, it was, we won an award the next year, and we just have grown over 30% year after year since then. And that's been 8 years ago. But so I would just say, man, that humbled me to my core, taught me a lot of my greatest lessons.
That's awesome. And I think that's a great thing for people to hear too, especially out there doing business or starting business. You coming back from that and keeping your faith in yourself and really pushing through. I mean, we're stronger than we think we are a lot of times. And a lot of times we kind of look at our weaknesses, or we look at, like we talked about, comparing ourselves to other people, or you have all these other voices in your ears saying you can't do it. Especially entrepreneurship, a lot of it is a solo activity, and you have to be self-motivated. You have to really get out there and push through all the trouble by, a lot of it by yourself. So to remind you that that's a great story, just in the sense of you're stronger than you think. You can get through stuff that is really, really difficult and go on and be successful if you keep on persevering and you keep your eyes on, because you could have gave up. You could have said, this isn't worth it. I don't think this is going to work out. Let me just go get a job. And to find that inner well of strength, that's real powerful. I think a lot of people can relate to that too. So
there was a lesson I'm a badass Southside Chicago kid. And so,
yes, you are.
Yes, I am. And, I've left the edge behind, but I had it for a long time. But I remember ranting and raving in Marquette University with the executive vice president, Jesuit. And I was like, God, because there was a situation. And I said, you need to put me on the board. I need to have, and he looked at me and he said, are you done? And I said, I think so. And he said, be aware that influence, of which you have, is far more important than power. And I think that was a key thing that, that made me think twice about at that point. And I think there are two resources that, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but one is entrepreneurs entrepreneurs don't all the time know what our strengths are. We just, and there's a website called viacharacter.org, and it tells you at this point in time what your top 5 strengths are. And how people use it is that when it hits the fan, or you're feeling down, or you got a conflict, or your budget isn't met, whatever it is, you can go to those 5 and say, how can I use these 5 strengths to get through this? In other words, we sit and grunt and grind and think about it. But if we have those 5 strengths to go to, and the other one is this guy, Shirzad Shamin, who wrote Positive Intelligence. And he has this test called Saboteur. And so you identify what are the things that sabotage us. And so it's like sage on one shoulder, saboteur on the other shoulder. And so what it does is that you start to get an awareness as an entrepreneur. Oh, I recognize this story. Now this is what's stopping me. This is what's holding me up. And we have a choice at that point, because if we don't know, we don't have a choice. So those two tools are really, really helpful to, and then the third thing is when we start to get cranked up or triggered. I learned this many years ago, and it's helped immensely. It's like somewhere in your body, you feel it. Like some people, the chest gets tight or your neck gets tight. And it's at that moment, if we're aware, we have a choice to respond, not react. And I think as entrepreneurs, the stress level can be so high, whether it's employees, I think you would agree, Eric, or budget or money flow, or there's an accident with the truck, or someone doesn't show and you're on a deadline. That stress just goes, wow. And so our ability to feel it in our body and say, okay, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to, take 5 minutes, chill out, and then be able to think more clearly. And I think that's, it's a learned behavior. It's not something that comes naturally for most of us.
That's a really powerful tool that you just shared. I need to exercise that a little more. I need to exercise. That. Cause man, when things start piling up, I'm the one that's like, wah. And I call my husband or our oldest daughter. She's 20. I call her or call my husband, and they're like, "It's all right. You've done this 100 times. You're fine." I'm like, okay. But I think, Sandy, what you shared, I need to just take 5 minutes instead of stressing them out.
It's hard.
It is. They probably need a glass of wine after talking to me some days.
It's your sounding board, huh?
I always have a bottle handy, so
Right.
Hey, we can always, instead of lunch, go to a winery.
Hey,
I'm there.
It's the virtual high five.
Call me.
All right. Well, hey, this is we're kind of getting to our time here, and just to be respectful of time, I want to give you guys both a minute or two to kind of tell us what you're working on now and what's going great. Just kind of something that you may want the world to know about, a little bit about your business and where we can get in touch with you. And if you have any events or any special things coming up, you can let us know about that now as well. So, you guys want to just let us know what's up.
Well, I'm working on some online courses on well-being, and one is Entrepreneur is Human. We have so many resources that talk to us about business, but not about ourselves. So I'm working on those 2 online courses. And I think that for me, the balance, I'm going to be doing some podcasts, as a matter of fact, on the balance between mental fitness and emotional intelligence, which oftentimes we don't marry. That's really key. So I'm doing that. My website needs to be revamped, but it's yuma.com, YUUMA.com. And that's my email, sandy@YUUMA.com.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
You're welcome, son.
I'm going to go look up your website.
There you go.
That's awesome. I mean, for me, I'm writing a book, and it is called, it's called Move, The Guide to Young Entrepreneurship. Wow. And so we have a framework within our company that we've used in our family. And And it stands for M, which is motivate, O, observe, V, visualize, and E, empathize. So I am turning that into a book in a framework, and I'm really excited about that. Although it is not even near ready. I am working hard on it. So just a plug, since I did plug that we are actively hiring, I would just say if you know anybody in Northwest Arkansas that's looking for a great company to work for, we would love to have them, and they can just go to our website, youngsmovingservice.com. And lastly, you can like us on Facebook at Young's Moving Service.
You are a total rock star.
Dynamos. Two
And
dynamos.
inspiration for sure.
Well, thanks, Miss Sandy. I've loved this talk. We'll have to get together. And Steve and Jarrell, thank you guys so much for having me and having Miss Sandy and introducing us to each other, because I just met new friends. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, both of you, everybody out there as well, Ericka Young, Sandy Wright, you guys have two different paths, but the same truth. Business is really hard. It's effing hard. So huge thanks to both of you guys for showing up with honesty and heart. And to everybody listening, wherever you are on the journey, just remember you're not alone in the grind. So share this episode with someone who's in it, and we'll catch you next time. So thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey there, Calvin Smith here, professional EOS implementer and entrepreneur just like you. For the last 15 years, I've built businesses from the ground up, some that have soared and some that nearly broke me. I felt the chaos, worn the hats, and hit the ceilings more times than I can count. And then I found EOS. The Entrepreneurial Operating System is not theory. It's a simple, practical framework that gave me clarity, control, and traction in my own companies, and it completely changes the way I lead and live. So now I'm super excited. I get to help business owners and leadership teams like you implement EOS so you can break through, get alignment, and actually enjoy running your businesses again. So if you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or just want to build something stronger and more fulfilling, EOS is exactly what you've been looking for. I'm excited to talk to you. Let's go.